Hello, welcome. My name is Lise Colucci, and I'm one of the life coaches at queenbeing.com, where we help you to discover, understand, and overcome narcissistic abuse in toxic relationships. And as always, welcome. And excuse me, here we go with the weird glitching, and we'll just let it do its thing. Welcome. And before we start, if you have not subscribed to this channel and you enjoy these live streams, I'm trying to do them more often. I'm trying to get on every day. So we're aiming towards that. I've been here 4 times this week. So if you enjoy this, hit subscribe, hit the thumbs up, do what you need to do so that I know the type of content that you are enjoying and the type that is less needed. So there's that. I'm just waiting for it to quit being funny, and then we'll start our topic for today. Hi, welcome. It's good to see you. Hi, E-Rock Freedom. And Shannon, hello. Okay, there it goes. Here we go. So today, let's talk about red flags. Red flags. I counted 59 on this list. So this is a big, giant list of red flags. I'm just going to run through them. You guys add to it and chat as you like. If there is anything that you need help with, I am here for any live video coaching that you need. So you can always ask a question as needed. Feel free to go off topic with that. If you save them toward the end, I'm more likely to see them. So, or please repeat them if need be. So, because I get on a roll and then I try to scroll back and it's not my strong suit. So, hello, Butterfly Mama. Okay, so hi, Crystal. So here we go. Number 1 red flag, lack of empathy. You know this one, right? Lack of empathy. Pay attention. Pay attention when you are meeting someone or when you're with someone that you already know, or if you're in a relationship that you're questioning whether someone is a narcissist or a toxic person of any kind. Pay attention to empathy and the way they relate to other people with regards to empathy. Hello, Belle. It is the biggest number 1 sign of a narcissist. And I'll get to the number 2 that I think after this. But listen to how someone... So a covert narcissist, for instance, will have fake empathy, as Crystal just talked about fake empathy so well, though. Okay, so if you pay attention over time, this isn't one that you can see right away, but see, the point is you don't look for 1 red flag. There's 59 here, okay? So you can look for quite a few. I mean, this isn't even a full list. This is just what I came up with this morning while I was preparing this. So if you look for, it's going to be more than 1. Someone can show low empathy on a bad day, and they can be a totally empathic person. You know what I mean? Like, we can all have bad days. And also, narcissists, especially coverts, can fake it really well. But over time, and it doesn't have to take a lot of time, you start to notice that the empathy is self-referred. In other words, it's not truly felt. It's sympathy based on something that they've experienced themselves or something they fear. So if you know their vulnerability is being abandoned, say, and they seem to have empathy for somebody telling a story about abandonment, well, that's not real true empathy in the sense of, it can be, but you can't judge someone's empathy based only on that, because it's triggering their own emotional vulnerability, right? So, but if, say, they hear of a world disaster and people suffering something they've never experienced, and you witness their, oh gosh, it's a really tricky one. Okay, I'm not even explaining this well. This one is an overtime thing, and you really got to pay attention to how multiple times somebody refers back to self. Does that make sense? It's tricky. Empathy with animals. Yes. Okay. So mine was really empathic around animals. However, they all were afraid of him. Why? Because he was controlling. So if you combine control with what looks like empathy, what you get is power. Does that make sense? It's basically, it's using the I like animals to like me to look like empathy, or it's not a real empathy, if that makes sense. It's a combination of, oh, my dog's going to bark because I told the kids don't play in and out of the house. So what are they going to do? They're going to play right at the doorway. So here we go. Lots of noise, maybe. Okay. He didn't actually have it, but most would not be able to pick up on it. Exactly. It can take time. So it's number 1 thing you're paying attention to, but it's the hardest one to see. Does that make sense? It's a really hard one to see. It's a really hard one to judge, but there's a lot of other ones that we're going to go over. So don't worry about it. Just know that that's the main thing you're looking for when you're trying to see if someone is truly narcissistic or at least so toxic that they are not good for your life at all and they can never change, right? My dog loved him too. My dog loved him too as well. However, there was an element of fear and to the point of where you could tell the animal was like in a hypnotic control, which is exactly how I felt if you think about it, right? So if they over-reference themselves more often than not, that's one way, yeah. Every time he emails me, he writes something pitiful about himself, never asks, yep, we're going to get to all these. Okay, I'm going to keep moving on. The number 2 thing I think is lack of accountability. And that's a hard one to see at first too, because it's not going to look like I didn't do it. It's going to be subtle things like, well, okay, so for instance, I had one come out of the woodwork and apologize to me. Okay. He came out of the woodwork 20 some years later. The weirdest Hoover ever, right? What did he want? He wanted my forgiveness. Why? Not because he wanted to make sure my life was okay. Not because he wanted to make sure I was okay and that everything that I was able to have healed passed beyond what he did. And he knew he did some pretty awful stuff. This was physical abuse and whatnot too. So what did he want? He wanted to tell me how he's changed and how sorry he was. Why? Because he needed to make amends. Why? For him freaking self. I'm sorry, but I questioned it. I thought about just ignoring it. And then I thought, no, I'm really curious it doesn't affect me. I can ask. He basically came to wanting there was no accountability. It wasn't accountability. It was his own shame creeping up on him that he wanted to be absolved for. That's not accountability. Okay. So you watch for accountability in how someone is accountable. When they don't know you or when it's been a long time, that's what they're going to do. When they don't know you well, that's not going to look like, I didn't do that. No, it's not going to be the blame shifting weird stuff. It's going to seem like, especially a covert, it's going to seem like they're taking accountability, but then you see the pushback because at the end of it, he said, I'm really sorry, but I was raised that way. I wasn't raised to be a good person. That's not taking accountability for his actions, right? Okay, here we go. Okay, so self-absorption. Somebody mentioned that. Listen close for the self-absorption. Bringing all conversations back to themselves. Self-referencing is fine because that's how we relate, right? I mean, I just told you a story because I'm trying to relate and give you something to relate back to, right? But self-absorption is telling a story and then saying, basically, how do I relate to it? What about me? How does that affect me? What about me? You can feel it. You feel the pull back to them and you feel almost like you haven't been heard. You tell a story or you say something and you feel shut down, like you haven't been heard. And there's this weird, it's subtle and you feel it. So pay attention to that. High sensitivity. Okay. This is tricky because, well, okay, let's just say red flags for a narcissist are one thing and red flags for what is an emotionally unsafe person in your life is kind of the same thing, right? And highly sensitive is one thing. To be highly sensitive, most of us are highly sensitive. It's how one reacts to their sensitivity. If they're pushing everything back onto other people to fix the problem, if they can't handle their tiny triggers, and I'm not talking big, massive triggers, little tiny triggers that come up when you're having conversations with someone you're trying to get to know. Pay attention to how they react to them because it shows a person's emotional intelligence, the way they handle their triggers. And that's what we're trying to do here with coaching and with these videos and with all the help that we are going after to try and heal is work on our own level of emotional intelligence so that we're not highly reactionary to our high sensitivity. Instead, we are responding appropriately to what's in front of us, right? A narcissist will never do that. They're going to be highly reactionary. They can fake it for a while, but they can't fake it forever. That's one that comes out sooner than later, I think. Let's see what someone's saying here, if there's anything related. My mother told me her mother never hugged her. I was like, wow, right? I know. So then hug me, right? Come on, be a good person. Yeah, as a reason for cruelty. It's exactly. Yeah, he should have been easier on you. Right, at the end, when it's too late, that's a Hoover telling you that they should have been better. They should have been easier on you, blah, blah, blah. At the end, that's just a Hoover. That's pretend. So another thing to look for is somebody who feels misunderstood and special. Okay. A narcissist they have put themselves up on a very high pedestal and they believe they are above other people. A covert, and especially the more vulnerable coverts, will look like a victim in that case instead of somebody that's better than, right? They'll look lesser than, or like somebody who's really a really good person, but nobody seems to see them. Now, this is a tricky one because I think a lot of us feel that way, right? So again, this is a collection of things and it's the way the person handles that. So if a person goes around handling that, feeling misunderstood and special, by then creating a fake world of how important and special they actually are around them, delusions, and then basing their life on those delusions, they're toxic. That's not a good thing. If they go around, if they're like, wow, I've really had a hard time meeting people. I seem to attract a lot of toxic people and I feel really misunderstood. It's hard for me to, then there's a place to work from, and you work toward self-validation, right? Like we talked about yesterday, the self-validation that comes in when you start to work on that. You don't need to feel understood and you don't need to feel special because everyone is, right? So there's that. So it's the way someone handles these flags. Okay. It's not just the flag itself, I don't think. Peter Pan. How many of us know Peter Pan? I'll bet lots of us have had Peter Pan come visit. Pay attention. If this happens, with men and women, I've seen it more with men, but male narcissists, and I've heard of it more, but it can happen with women narcissists too. We can call it, I don't know, something else for a female, but Peter Pan can be a girl too. Anyway, they have this childlike affect, this childlike, it's not playfulness, it's selfish indulgence in their own activities. Does that make sense? It's taking it generally, like my thing is, and I need to write an article on this, is I felt like Wendy in Peter Pan's world. And then when Wendy was no longer interesting, he just went and got a new Wendy, or actually he went with some Tinkerbells for a while. Right. And so they come in and they want to play house, right? They want to use you for your stability and your grounding, but really they are unable emotionally to be there as an adult human being. And so they are forever Peter Pan, right? Yep. Jen says, yes, me too. Yes, like he's just a big kid. Yeah. And there are beard babies. Okay, that's a good one. Those behaviors, you heard a doctor with his own channel describe a covert where it was like those behaviors sound like me and invoked empathy for the narcissist, which really is bad, leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Yes, and this is what I'm saying. So a narcissist is an emotionally vulnerable and afraid person. Okay, they're very fearful of what they experience emotionally. Well, a codependent person or a people pleaser, a survivor, we're the same. We're not the same as them. We have empathy. There's the difference. We have empathy and accountability. That's why those was number 1 and number 2. With empathy and accountability, it means like it actually invoked empathy in you right there. Bam, you're not the narcissist, right? Do you have things to work on? Probably. We all do. Okay. Or you wouldn't be in here, right? You'd be out saying, wow, I don't need that anymore, but that's okay. It's okay because this is how we evolve. We notice these things in ourselves that are super similar and we go, oh, no, because that's not good for other people and it's not good for myself. And so then we work to change them, and it's possible to change them because we do not lack empathy and we do not lack accountability, and we can step up and be responsible for ourselves where they cannot. Hence Peter Pan, who needed Wendy to do it all for him. Okay, so here we go. Embarrassed the kids at a family function by singing old camp songs loudly in front of a bunch of people. So weird. I honestly think he was high from New Supply. Oh, I've seen that. Like the weird personality shift. And it's like they step in and like when Peter Pan crows, and you're going, why are they doing that? They're almost 50. Okay. Which being playful and silly is my thing. I love it. I don't care if I did that, it'd be a different situation. I'd be making a fool out of myself and I'm not caring about it. You know what I mean? That was for supply. It's intention. all of this is intention, and we can't know another person's intention. So we watch for this big old list of red flags. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Why does mine seem so damn confident, set in his ways, and knows exactly what he wants? That's why he was just done with me. It didn't work, period. That because he was probably more on the overt side, or, well, confidence isn't confidence. It's cocksure. You know what I mean? It's arrogance. It's not confidence. It's arrogance, and because they don't have empathy, they don't have the responsibility of other people's feelings in mind. They only think about their own wants and needs. And because they don't, oh gosh, I lost my train of thought on it. It'll come back. Oh, he was just done with you when it didn't work, because that would require compromise, and they can't compromise, right? Why should they compromise? They can just go off and find new supply. They like the lack of attachment, but they need you to be attached to them. So it's exactly what they do. Showing off. Yep. Okay, so next one, quiet and smug. Covert narcissist may appear very quiet and smug. Basically, they're lying through omission, right? They're not telling you things about themselves. They're not showing their emotions or their feelings toward things, even in little ways. And they're using that quiet smugness to put up a wall. And it's not a quiet smugness like boasting, although it can be. I mean, it can be. I've seen the boasting type too, but those are easy to spot. It's the coverts that are harder to spot. And I'll go on and we'll say more about another one, but that quiet smugness comes, when I've seen it is when it's around things where people who are super empathic have a lot to say. And so here's one thing. If you're out there trying to meet people, meet lots of different people so that you have something to go by. Don't just talk to one type. You know what I mean? And if you have someone in your life who is like this, start talking to people, friends and whatever, and pay attention. Oh my gosh, when I talk to so-and-so, they have all this stuff to say that's really amazing. They really connect. When I talk with them, they're just quiet and smug and don't have a whole lot to say. Well, it's because number one, they're empty. And they don't have a whole lot of reference for how, because you're talking about empathy in that kind of situation. You're talking empathically with someone, and they can't do that. So, okay. Coverts become overts once you identify them. Yep, they sure do. They sure do. Once you identify them and unmask them, there is a lot of overtness you start to see. I think it's most difficult to find in the beginning. I mean, like I said, 2 years it took for the mask to slip. So yeah. And then once it did, it was never ending, so. Okay. So the next one, they have difficult interpersonal relationships. Okay. This is another one that of course we've had because we've been with toxic people, right? A lot of us are raised by toxic people. And so, or have had toxic situations in our life, which led us to have difficult interpersonal relationships. So that's another one where you pay attention to what that means. Why? Why do they have a difficult interpersonal relationship? But don't use your empathy to pay attention. Use your logic. Because if you use your empathy, you're going to relate to them. Oh, well, they had a hard upbringing. I had a hard upbringing. And that makes sense why they would feel like no one cares about them or whatever. Instead, look to why. What are their actions? Are their actions creating the difficult interpersonal relationships? Pay attention. Okay. They have crazy exes, all of them. Every single one of them, I think, has a crazy ex, and you're probably one of them. Now that you've joined the ranks of crazy exes that are out there making everybody's life crazy because we're so crazy. Okay, crazy exes, they have them. Pay attention. Okay. Pay attention to how you feel. How do you feel? This is one that comes back to you. When you're around someone, how do you feel? You're probably fairly empathic. You probably have a lot of empathy. So let me just say, I have not had a client that wasn't an empath. Okay. Really, truly, super, super sensitive, empathic people. Okay. And So most of us, I'm just going by that. Most of us are probably fairly empathic. You have a sense of your own self. Okay. And if you don't, get it first before you go out there trying to find new people in your life. Get a sense of yourself, understand who you are, what it feels like to be around other people. Pay attention. Are you anxious? So if you're dating someone new and you're like, are they a narcissist? I wonder. I'm a little scared. They have some of these red flags. I don't know. Everybody has a few. We all do, right? Okay. So paying attention to so many things at once can be overwhelming. Am I just anxious from that? Am I talking myself into the anxiety? Wait a minute. I'm getting sleepy. I'm really sleepy around them. Why am I so sleepy? Oh my gosh, they're draining my energy. You see what I'm saying? If you meet someone else and you talk to them, you're not drained. You're fine. You feel like having a normal day afterwards, and that's it. There is a huge difference when you start getting used to paying attention to how you feel and the way people's energy affects you and the way people affect you. Are you uncomfortable? Are you saying things that don't feel like you? Does that make sense? Are you agreeing to things that feel like you've just had your boundaries pushed? Okay. Another red flag, they can be very stubborn in pushing their way on other people, right? We know this one. Another one, there's an emptiness that you can't identify. There's something about them where it feels like they're pulling something from you to fill them. All right. And yes, people who are not narcissists do this too. But again, that's not a healthy situation. So if you're doing it to someone, fix it. And if you notice it in someone that you know isn't a narcissist, keep your boundaries up. But if there's other red flags that scream narcissism, run. Okay. He made me nervous the way I parked, drove, etc. Yeah, they make us nervous, right? And they make you crazy, and they make you feel a crazy feeling that isn't yourself. You just don't feel like yourself around them. At least that's my interpretation. Okay. Some of them, another one, boundary pushing. Boundary pushing. We know that, right? Boundary pushing is high up on the list. And they don't do it right away in big ways. Some do. Oh my gosh, some do. And they do it in the Peter Pan way that, it's fun. Peter Pan got Wendy to jump out a window and fly through the air to another place in the sky. He did it through stealing her brothers, but at the same time, he did it, right? They will get you to do things that go against what you wish to do. And they will do it in ways that are either overt or very subtle. So sometimes it's big things like that, like, oh, come on, let's just go. And you run with what feels like fun, right? Or it'll be subtle things like, oh, well, how about tomorrow then? Oh, not tomorrow. What about the next day? What about the next day? Oh, well, you said tonight might be free. What about tonight? They push it all the way back. You know what I mean? Like they just keep persistent pushing. So pay attention. If someone's not listening to you say no or not listening to your boundaries, there's an issue. No matter what that issue is, it's an issue. They can be overly charming and overly attractive and almost hypnotic. Once you know what that looks like, it is the ugliest thing ever. Once you know what it looks like, it's predatory. And you sense it and you feel it. Think back to the first meeting or two. Think back to the moment you couldn't say no. Think back to that moment. That's the look. That's the look you're looking for. That's most of us know what I'm talking about. And it's not always charming. Sometimes it's just a look. Sometimes it's overt charm. Okay. So, all right. I'm still shaky around him or even potentially going to see him. I hate it. Yeah, because they are horrible energy. They're like black holes of sucking your energy right out of you. It's awful. Okay. I'm reading real quick here. If I miss anything important, please repeat it. I mean, it's all important, but if I miss anything that's like a question or you want me to say out loud, just repeat it and I'll read it. You guys are chatty today and I like it, but I get lost because I have 59 things. So here we go. Okay. Overly charming. We said that they project their own insecurity onto others. So I talked about this the other day. Number one, this makes you feel anxious because what happens is maybe you have a slight insecurity about something. We all have insecurities all the time, whatever. but maybe say, I'm just going to use abandonment because that's what I talked about the other day. Maybe you have a slight insecurity or a big one. It doesn't matter. But they have the same insecurity, or even if theirs is different, it doesn't matter. They'll push that insecurity onto you, and it creates situations that make you feel what they feel. Does that make sense? Like maybe you don't have abandonment issues. Maybe you had a perfectly fine childhood. You don't have abandonment issues. You know it hurts to be left, of course, but you don't sit and perseverate about it, right? It's not your core wound, but theirs is. Okay. They will create situations where you never feel secure so that you always feel like they have one foot out the door. And through doing that, they are projecting their insecurity onto you. And they'll do it. It's constant, right? They do it continuously. What happens is you start to feel anxious. You start to feel jealous. You start to feel like you're going to be left. You start becoming a person you're not, right? And you've never been in relationship before. Sometimes some people are like, I don't even know what happened to me. I don't know where I went. That's what that is. That's them pushing a lot of times. That's them pushing their insecurities onto you through projection. And the way they do it is through acts. It's through their behaviors. So mine used to threaten to divorce me all the time. Yes, when probably it was their own fear of being left, because that would make you say, no, don't leave me. Please don't leave me. Oh, please, I beg you. I'm on my knees, blah, 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 which is what they want. Number one, it's supply. But number two, it reinforces that they are not being left. So they get fed in multiple ways at the same time they're breaking you down. So that's a big one. That takes knowing someone a bit, but you can pay attention in the beginning to how someone is projecting. We all project, right? It's really hard not to. Especially when you meet someone and you like them. It's really hard not to project your wants, your desires, your agenda onto someone else, right? Very hard. But it's the way it's done, and it lacks boundaries and it lacks respect. Okay. My spirit was broken at the end, right? I know. It's awful. Projection, Robin says, hi, Robin. Projection is the worst. Before I knew how to identify it, it literally started to kill my soul and made me doubt myself. Now I know it was just what he hated about himself. Isn't it? It's the worst because you not only have your own stuff, right? We all have our own stuff. You not only have your own pain and your own wounds and your own insecurities, but now you're being made to be responsible for someone else's. And not only that, but they do it in a way where you feel like they're yours. So they're handing you their baggage in a big, heavy box, and you're carrying it around on your back without thinking it's your own baggage when it's really theirs. It's horrible. It's horrible. Makes me emotional sometimes, says Crystal, that someone just gets it without even having to tell the whole story. Yeah, I know. At the end, Jen says he'd steal my past stories to where I questioned if I was even there. Oh, yeah, there's that too. And I don't know how you'd watch for that early on, except for listening to how they talk about other people and the stories. And then if you have the luck of knowing another side, weighing it against that. And that's not often the case. So let's keep going. They can't take simple constructive criticism. And that's another one that's a little difficult to see in the beginning, but they can't take even the slightest constructive criticism without blame shifting or turning the tables or avoidance. And avoidance is usually what they do in the beginning, especially coverts. And overt may just blow up in your face and then make a joke about it and then make it seem like, oh, I was just kidding. Oh my gosh, you can't take a joke. Ha 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 ha, I'm so funny, But a covert might avoid entirely. If you have the slightest, or if somebody else has, or if you witness them having the slightest constructive criticism, it pointed their way, they might take it very graciously. They might say, that's something I'll have to think about. I'll have to consider that. I'll take that into consideration, and then bam, avoid the topic. All right. That's what they do over and over, whereas it's in combination with other things, but it's something to watch for. Okay. Okay, they have very fast intimacy. And I don't necessarily mean sexual, although that too, but so do other people. That's not the only sign. Fast intimacy, I mean, they fall in love fast. Now, so does a love addict. But remember, a narcissist is like a love addict. they're a supply addict. Okay. And they know that when they feel that gushy feeling of new supply, that big excitement, that they can hold that for a while. And so they want it and they go after it, and they attach fast. They attach in one date. Okay. Or a week or whatever. They attach before they meet you. All right. And yes, so will some of us. And this is what we learn about ourselves. And we go, oh, I have accountability and empathy. I don't want to do that to someone else. It feels really good, but that's not fair to other people because that's not real. So how do I get to know someone? And we change ourselves. A narcissist is like, no way, that's the best. And they go after it. And that's it. And that's so pay attention to your own attaching fast too, that you can't know someone that quickly. You can have a feeling that that could be a really awesome relationship or whatever, but you still got to take the time to get to know them. And that's something to work with within yourself if that's your habit, so that you don't end up with toxic people, because they're a big waste of time. Okay. And pain, and they're painful. All right. What did I write here that I can't see? Oh, they're materialistic, and if they're covert, you may not see it as materialistic. It maybe looks like collecting, or a quirky hobby of collecting, and it may be just one thing. It's not necessarily like they all need the fast cars and the best clothes and blah, blah, blah. Like a lot of them do, but some of them don't. They dress pretty modestly. Everything's modest about their life, but they're very materialistic about the things they have. They objectify their stuff. We all do it with things we love. I love this pen. Okay. But it's a pen. Whatever, if it gets lost, I just get another one. I don't care. But you take this pen and you scratch it, and a narcissist flips out because they're objectifying this as a perfection, an item of perfection that is theirs. Their belongings are theirs. They are not something they share. And if they share, it's out of control. Okay. So does that make sense? Let's see here. Did I miss anything? Bye, Jen. Okay. We moved in quickly together and fell apart fast. As always, I wondered if I would have all come out in the end, if we would have taken our time instead and didn't live together. If you had known everything you could know, if you had worked on the parts of yourself that needed to be worked on so that you wouldn't be vulnerable to it. But what you learn now is how to move forward and use this information to become more secure in yourself, right? And work on the parts of yourself where you can, so that you feel like you are the strong, amazing person that you are, right? And get yourself back. Hi, Lori. Let's see. Victim mentality. There's another one. Victim mentality. Yeah, we know this one, right? Don't need to say a whole lot here. They use the victim mentality not to share a story. Okay. A lot of us want to tell our story. We want to tell our story to people. We want to tell parts of our story, or we're afraid to tell our story. And when we do, it's a big deal. Right. And or stories of our life, where we've had, everybody shares hard times, is my point. Everybody shares, especially when you're getting to know someone. You talk about the good stuff, you talk about the bad stuff. You want to share your life. You want to share who you are, and that's all of you, right? So they don't do it for that purpose. They don't do it to give you a piece of themselves. They do it to hook you and hook your empathy. They want to put a hook into your empathy so that you have a tie to them. In other words, they like you for the way you feel about the things they say. They don't even like you. They gain supply, right? Okay. First conversation I ever had was pity, pity, pity. So obvious now. Right. And usually they use the X as the crazy X as the hook. Poor me, I had a crazy ex. Or like in my case, it was, I don't know that I was necessarily crazy. I went crazy at the end, definitely. Afterwards, I went crazy off the deep end. However, it was more that they feigned accountability. They feigned accountability, saying that they're the one that's difficult to be in a relationship with. And How I know this is what they did to me. She went crazy at the end, but, you know, it could just be that I'm really hard to get along with. Pity, 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 big brown eyes. But it was all, you know, it's so obvious afterwards. At the time, it actually looked like, wow, no, you're actually a really cool person. Why would you say that about yourself? Oh, he must just be down on himself. I know what that's like. We all get down on ourselves. You see, it creates empathy and sympathy in you because you can relate to that feeling. So my rule of thumb, someone starts talking about their past and I don't know them, I change the subject quickly. I say, wow, that must have been rough. And I change the subject quickly and I say, hey, let's talk about that when we know each other better. And that's a really great topic for a couple months from now. And I change the subject. I don't want to hear it because number one, it's I'm not out with people to not have a good time. And that's kind of a downer. And number two, it's too big of a red flag on both ends, because if someone can't stop talking, then they're either a survivor or somebody who's so hurt they're not ready to be dating or meeting you or whatever the situation, a friend or whatever. Anyway, they're self-absorbed into their own pain still. And so what they need is a support group, or they're toxic, right? In either case, that's not why I'd be out talking to someone new, right? They can meet me in another platform if that's what they need, right? Okay. Let's see. Does anyone else think they could be demon possessed? No, I do not believe in that personally. Okay. I think that that is a number one. I'm just going to give you two things on that. Number one is that assumes it can be remedied, and it can't. And number two, this is a psychological condition that it's like equating someone with a health condition to something that is a possession, which is a completely faith-based thing. And if that's your faith, then that's cool. And there are forums who will talk about that. This isn't one of them, because this is as science-based as I can and as experience-based as I can. And I can't, based on that experience, that's too, you know what I'm saying? So, okay. In other words, even if they're still toxic. Let's look at it that way. Even if that's the case, you still got to get out. You got to get away. All right. My first narc was a psychologist. Yeah. Hey, dog, you don't want to do that. No barks. Sorry. Let's see. Mine said he knows he's difficult to be with. Is that taking accountability? No, that is feigned accountability. And that's to get you. That's okay. So a narcissist, one thing they'll do, here's another red flag. They'll tell you exactly who they are in statements like that. I'm difficult to be with. I was told that too. I'm just difficult to be with after our first fight. I'm just difficult to be with. But they do it in a way that brings pity. It brings empathy. It's not, you know what? I am difficult to be with. I'm an asshole. I prey on people. I love supply. It's not that. That's accountability. You want to be with me? You're mine. Take it or leave it. In the beginning, that's accountability. This is what I need. I need someone to worship me. I need someone to do all the things. I need supply. I want fuel off of you. I want you to take all of my baggage and hold it and pretend it's your own. And you process it while I go on and I go sleep with other people and do whatever the heck I want. That's accountability, right? Just giving you little tidbits of something like that is just to pull you. It's to pull you in and play on your empathy. Like I said before, that's the victim mentality that they're using to hook your empathy. All right. Sad dog performance. Exactly. I told mine, says Crystal, that he couldn't emotionally connect to people like I could. Also, he said, mine told me he couldn't emotionally connect to people like I could. And also he said he had a darkness inside of him. Right. And it's not like they're giving you a list all at once with a straight face and criteria. It's always done. At least it seems to me, or we'd run. It's done in a way where it's manipulative, right? Right. Okay. So let's keep going, because there's a lot of these. they bring the talk back to themselves all the time. This is another red flag. They bring the talk back to self. We talked about that a little bit. It's a form of circular talking in a sense, where everything you're talking about suddenly becomes about them, and you just feel lost in the conversation. Another one, they can advise you on your life when it isn't asked for. They know better and they know how to fix it, and they're going to tell you. And it's not a person that is just really good at helping people, like, oh, maybe this or maybe that, or what do you think about this? It's very directed, and it's usually controlling. You feel the control in it. Okay. Another one. They lack compassion, right? They make comparisons. They compare themselves to other people. More overt ones in particular will do this, but coverts do it too, especially when you find a trigger, like say a man, and he's got an issue with other men because he's got that, swaggering male thing that more insecure men might have, of comparing themselves to other men and then having to knock the other guy down in stature, in rank, in whatever. And they compare themselves, and they're always, there's a competition, and sometimes they do it with friends in a more bantering way. And it just shows insecurity, right? It just shows the insecurity and the lack of emotional intelligence there. Let's see, status. A lot of them are status focused. Another one is they are constantly seeking approval, validation, and supply. And again, this is another one that other people do, and especially survivors of abuse and codependent people, is seeking approval and validation. I think it's a human thing, and it's part of connection, right? Like, you have a partner, you want them to validate you. That's not a bad thing. However, it's the way if you have no ability to self-validate, like I talked about yesterday, then there can be an issue with something going on even your side. But with a narcissist, they're doing it for supply, and you can feel it differently because it's almost a demand for that approval. And if they don't get it, they pout, they silent treatment, they do all kinds of the toxic things that they do. All right, keep going. So am I going too fast? Going through these, there's just a lot of them. I could actually split it to another day, but I thought it's kind of fun to have them all on one video because there's a lot of ways you can start to notice people around you, right? All right. So another thing with the competitive is it's not necessarily always competitive. It can be you and me against the world sort of thing. It's us against them. I'm the only one that gets you. You're the only one that gets me. So they pull you into a little micro world of theirs and start isolating you from the rest of the world through this sort of like comparing your thing with everybody else. And everybody else isn't there for you, but I am, so there we go. They often need to be the best at everything, right? They have a high confidence that is not just confidence, but it's boasting about things. That's a more overt trait, but also coverts do it too. And it's usually about one or two things in their life. And they'll do it by telling you all the recognition that they get for something rather than just telling you the thing they did. I got told at work that I'm the best at this and da-da-da. And, like they'll go on and on and on about it instead of saying like, oh my gosh, someone just gave me an amazing compliment. That made me feel good. Like there's not a lot around it except the boasting. So paying attention to that. They blame shift. The dead eyes. Yes. Okay. I'll do that next. They blame shift. We know what that is. I'm not going to go into a whole lot about that because they blame. So that's back to the no accountability. They'll blame other people for things. Pay attention to when people can't be accountable to themselves. Not just about you, about anything in the world. Pay attention. Why can't they be accountable? What are they doing instead? Are they blaming? Are they avoiding? What if I try and talk about it? What happens? Okay. The dead eyes. The dead eyes. There's an emptiness. I talked about this. It's an emptiness that you sense. And you can see it in their eyes often. Or the eyes do things. They turn on. We all can turn our looks on, right? We can all turn our eyes on to twinkle. We can all lure someone in with a look or whatever, right? But they do it when they're not doing it. The eyes are empty. It's like it's void of connection toward humanity. It's void of connection toward the world, right? Unless it's something they want to put their focus on. Whereas even when depressed, you feel that from the eyes of someone with empathy, right? And that's probably the most blah eyes that I can think of in someone with empathy. You know, like usually we're pretty lit up and we're looking around and we're observing the world. They don't do that. All right. After he treated like an absolute dog poop, I wasn't talking to him. He'd always write little notes telling me to listen to my heart and feel our special love. Yep, there you go. There you go. Forgetting who I was the next day, claiming it was a medical. Yeah, you know, okay. Okay. Mine feigned tears like it was so special, saying I only want you. Yep. During sex. Oh, of course. Yep. Oh my gosh, right? Talk about hooking someone when they're most open to intimacy and connection. Yeah. Okay. All right. They're critical of others. Excuse me. Not only do they compare, but they're very critical of other people. First of all, I don't think that's a very pleasant trait anyway, regardless of whether someone's a narcissist, but the judging criticism of other people, watch for that. They may actually be married and claiming that they are separated. All right. Pay attention to someone's marital status, what they're claiming. They may be very, very, very newly separated. All right. Which means that they probably aren't or whatever, which I laugh just because it's not funny, but it is just so obvious, right? Okay. Another thing is inauthentic romance. They're inauthentically romantic. They're overtly love bombing you with all this romantic, gushy, flowery, lovey-dovey stuff. Okay. That's not real. It's not real from anyone. It may be truly if it's a more anxious, codependent person, it's still toxic to you because it's not truly about you. It's about them wanting something from you, right? They want something from you and they know how to give this to get that. And that's not an authentic exchange. That's not what we want. Regardless, if it's a narcissist, they're doing it to lay the groundwork for the love bombing. They're grooming you. All right. Okay, this one. They lie. They're secretive. They tell half-truths and they lie by omission. That can be harder to catch early on. It can be harder to catch, but you can pay attention. Like I said earlier about the quiet smugness, that's kind of lying by omission because usually it happens in times when somebody else would be giving you information about themselves, would be sharing intimate parts of themselves or sharing feelings, okay, or sharing experience based on, it's like an intuitive experience of life, right? Not that everyone has to be, deep and intuitive and whatever, but there's a line, like you might ask a question, you may be talking about their childhood, say, or their past, and you can tell they're leaving things out. Suddenly they can't remember big chunks or whatever, but it's not the same as truly not remembering. There's an inauthenticity you can sense, and it takes time to notice that, but they do lie all the time, or they tell you one thing, I'm just going to finish up this job, and you find out they went out with friends, and you catch the lies eventually. Pay attention. If you're catching lies in someone, then they lie. Get out. Don't let it get to the point where you're completely trauma bonded. If this is a new thing for you. All right. Rules. They have their own moral code for themselves. All right. They don't follow the rules of other people, especially not the rules when it comes to emotionally being accountable and responsible for themselves in relation to other people. So, and a lot of them are just out and out rule breakers. They are criminal, right? So there's that. All right. Friendships are one-sided and single-purposed. So if you pay attention to their friendships, so if you're getting to know someone new, get to know their friends too. Get to know their life, who the people they choose to have around them are, what that's like, what they look like in front of those people. You have to. That's a giant mirror into, or a looking glass rather, into their world, right? And their friendships may look sincere. Like I could say that I wouldn't have noticed if I had thought of this only, except for one fact: every friendship had one single purpose for that particular friendship only. And when you have had a friend for more than 5 years, it should be a little bit deeper than that, unless it's only some of your friends. You know what I'm saying? Like you may have your running buddy and all you do is run and all you talk about is XYZ, right? And that's okay. And that may last for 5 years. But if that's your deepest friend and that's your closest friend, sums up. When you don't talk about other stuff, when it's only related to the one topic, something's going on there. The person isn't relating to that person. They're relating to the event they do with that person, thus using them as supply if they're a narcissist. All right. Okay. You feel like you're on an emotional roller coaster all the time because of that projecting that they're doing, because they're trying to get you to take on the accountability for their pain. You feel like you are on this emotional roller coaster and it's never ending. Okay, so it can end when you just step off. All right. You feel things that you are not used to feeling. You do not feel secure around a narcissist, most likely. I haven't heard of anyone who does, except for people who are so used to it that that level of push and pull is comfort, right? And that's just being addicted to the trauma cycle. But you don't feel secure. You don't feel calm. You don't feel like you could step away from it and come right back together and it's just as good. There's always something. There's always insecurity placed in there. And you feel jealous and suspicious. Why? Right? Because they're setting it up so that you feel that way because there's no security. All right, I'm going to read some of you guys. They get those enforcing rules to bend them for sure, to bend them for them. Right, says Rebecca. Butterfly Mama says, mine would ask me to be vulnerable and then with them and share and use my vulnerability against me. Absolutely, they do that. That's what they do. But in the beginning, if you pay attention, they're just listening and soaking up all the things about you. They don't necessarily use it against you in the beginning. They're listening, but they don't share back enough. It's not the same. They might share back enough to hook you, but they don't go deep enough into it. All right. Let's see. I took mine back after an affair and he flat out told me he wouldn't have taken me back if I had had an affair on him. Right. So there is the double standard, which is another one. Okay, and I'll just skip it because you just said it. The double standard. Yep. They try to get pity from other people. How awful you are. Yes. No secure attachment. Nope. Never. None. Well, they can't because they're avoidant. If you look at the attachment style, a narcissist falls in the highly avoidant attachment style. So there's that. Okay, so they can't be secure attachment. And you can't create secure attachment from avoidance unless the person has accountability and empathy. And they work really, really hard on themselves to become secure. And that's pretty slim chances, all right? Not possible with a narcissist, slim chances if they have empathy and they're that avoidant, okay? They're emotionally shut down, closed off to intimate connection. Exactly, it's nothing there. Mine never asked about me, period. Right. That's right. Or if they do, it's because they know they should and they're not listening. They don't listen. So they may ask, but they don't listen. Like mine knew all the words to say. He knew all the words to say that are supposed to be comforting. It was so empty, it felt worse than if he'd said nothing. Right? And it's the same with asking about me. It'd be worse than if he hadn't asked because he wasn't listening. All right. They need to keep track of you. They need to know where you are at all times. They text you constantly. They love bomb you with the texting in the beginning, and then they start keeping track of you. They need to know what's up with you. But if you do it back, then why are you not trusting them, right? They love bomb you. In the beginning, they'll love bomb you. Okay, but not all of them. And okay, love bombing can look like different things. The basics, gifts, extravagances, trips, telling you how amazing you are, telling you all the things you want to hear, instant intimacy, taking you out to lavish places, taking you out to fun places, being they're love bombing. I mean, it's all the description of whatever could be exciting, romantic. Not always, though. Sometimes love bombing is simply giving you attention. It really depends on where your need for attention lies. They're not going to waste their energy love bombing you if you don't need it to hook you in. Okay, most of them. Some of them will try it. They'll realize they don't need it and they don't do it. or they're just not the type to do it. And so the type of supply they seek is different. But there is always a love bombing. Sometimes love bombing can just be setting up life so it's easy for you, but they're not actually giving it to you. Does that make sense? It can be like somebody described their life to me, and it's a very nice life, except for the fact that he's a manipulative, horrible narcissist that they live with. But the external parts of their life, very nice. That's love bombing. Okay, that's a form of love bombing because it keeps you there based on the nice things. All right. But there can be all kinds of love bombing, like I said. Anyway, hello, Frankendoll. Okay. No compliments except the last Hoover. Right, because probably in the beginning you didn't need it. It just depends on what we need. They can read us, right? That's what they're doing in the grooming, is they're reading what the supply needs. It's not like they are sitting there going, I'm going to read this person. They just know, just like you know what someone needs, right? You know when you meet someone the kind of things they need, and you give it to them because you're trying to please them, right? But they do it not to please. They do it to secure supply back, to secure their own getting back. Love bombed, then followed by quick devalues, more love bombing and ghosting. Yep, that's what they do. Trying to charm me like you did before. Charm. That's right. That's part of the love bombing too, is being charming, being this amazing person to be out with, right? Your needs are currency to them. I like that. Exactly. Rebecca says that. Okay, so they take on your likes. This is another red flag. Somebody that suddenly takes on the things that you like, which is different from trying something new and learning to enjoy it, or actually enjoying it, or just making a decision for yourself whether or not you like that thing. They take on the things you like and suddenly they're experts. Or suddenly, like they may, like say it's, I'm just gonna make something up. Say it's snowboarding, right? They take on snowboarding because you are an avid snowboarder. Suddenly they start talking the snowboard jargon when they haven't even been around it long enough for it to kind of like blend in and be part of who they are. You know what I mean? Like they'll take on the mannerisms. They're putting on masks. Okay. You can watch the mask be put on by showing them something you like that they are willing to do in the beginning, because later on they won't be willing to do your stuff. But in the beginning, just watching how they take it on, it'll either be super awkward, and then they will do the whole pity victim thing, or they will take it on and identify with it to the point where it just doesn't seem real. All right. And you might be thinking, wow, that's cool. They love this thing I do, but no. And it's different than somebody trying it, liking it, getting into it slowly, and doing their thing with it. That's different. Can you tell the difference of what I'm talking about? If you've ever experienced that, I've watched it, and it feels so fake that you can just sit there and you wonder why you're even paying attention to that person. Yeah, he played this cycle many times at me the first few years. Oh, why couldn't I see it? I should have known I was worth more. You know now, Crystal, you are worth more. Okay. I think we all feel that. I think we do. Yeah. You feel talked down to, or you feel somehow beneath them when they're talking. All right. That's another red flag. Again, listening for the depth of things to look for the accountability. They show a lack of remorse when confronted. They show a lack of true remorse if something happens. Perfection. Some narcissists, not all of them, have an absolute need for everything around them to be perfect. The more overt ones in particular will want to change your clothes, want to change your hair, want to change things about you to make them to make you the perfect idol, to make you the perfect idealized version of what they think you should be. All right. And they do that with the things around them too. So pay attention to the things around them and how they objectify the things in their life and how they obsess with the things in their life. And you might get an indication of how you might be treated shortly thereafter. They act like their life is amazing when really it's a big hot mess. Okay, that's another one, that they may act like things are just just so great. Their life's amazing. They've got this great house. You go inside and it's a heap full of mess, right? And instead of just being honest about who they are, they cover it up with the lies. All right. Another one is your relationship begins to revolve around their wants and needs. Okay, we all know that one. That's usually not caught till later on, but you could pay attention early on to how they are, how the needs of both of you are being met, and how it's discussed and all of that. Okay. Another one is they have grandiose delusions about themselves. We know this, right? And they create a fantasy world around them to support those delusions. That's the basis of, that's the other prime thing to look for, right? With a narcissist. Okay. They are famous. They're furious if you keep them waiting. Oh my gosh. Yes. But how many, I think I've counted years of my life simply waiting for the man. Yeah. Yeah. But if you keep them waiting, they'll be in the car tapping their foot. And I'm talking 30 seconds waiting. Right. All right. He was telling me how to do my hair or commenting if I didn't like what I was wearing until we were split up. And then the love bombing came. Then I looked great. Exactly. You see? Oh, he lived in Italy for 12 years and he thought he was better than everyone. Well, plenty of people of all kinds in every country. So there you go. All right. They're self-entitled and they're experts. Okay. And what I mean by that is when they're talking to someone else, listen to how they speak to other people. So if they're talking to someone else and the other person has a good understanding of something, say it's a thing, an object, right? And the other person has a good understanding of this object and how it works, computers. So let's make that up. Another person's pretty good about fixing computers, blah, blah, blah. They step in and talk to this person who's pretty good at it, and they're the expert. And if you pay attention when they're doing that to other people, you can see how you're going to be treated. Because it's not like, oh, hey, have you thought of this? Or did you try that? Like offering opinion, it's expertise and being self-entitled and self-important in that situation. And then walking away like, well, that person should have listened to me. And yeah, it's not a shared knowledge. It's imparting their great wisdom upon everybody else. All right. We talked about projecting and feelings of insecurity. Right? Yes, we did. Remember that they're afraid of feeling. Okay. And it may seem, oh gosh, how can I explain this? It may seem like an expression of shyness or them being vulnerable, like not wanting to share because of vulnerability. Well, I'm sorry. Anyone who's like that is not ready to be sharing a life with someone else, right? Because that's the nature of relating. Relationship you have to relate in a relationship, and they don't relate. So there you go. All right. They hide the details of their past story. I think I talked about that already too. They're super controlling. Okay. And it can be in subtle, covert ways. So pay attention to when you feel like you're not living your truth. And it can be subtle, and in the beginning, it can be maybe less obvious. All right. But being controlled is a major, major thing with a narcissist. They have to control, because if they don't control the illusion of their delusional world that they're setting up, the bubble pops. There is no more Peter Pan, right? If they're not in control. If you look at it like that, there is no more, if they're not in control, that fantasy world of Neverland doesn't exist, right? Because it's a made up world, right? They're creating this made up world around them, and they have to control it. And they're fearful if they don't have control. They're fierce about it. All right. Hi, Mo Cowboy. Also the opposite, dismissing your expertise. Right. Oh, yeah. Oh, they'll totally dismiss you. Yeah. That's what I mean. They'll dismiss the other person. So they'll be dismissing the person that they're talking to. I'm talking about like if you're watching them with someone else, or if they're doing it to you. But sometimes it's easier to see when you watch them around other people, and they'll be dismissing the expertise of that person who you know is pretty good at that thing. And at the same time, they are boasting their own self about it. So, okay. And here's a couple from Angie's list, which was they love you fast. We talked about that. They fall in love fast. They say, I love you. They say, I love you so fast. All right. How? Why? What do you love? You know what I mean? Yeah. All right. They point out how you are better than the ex. You're so much better than my ex because blah, blah, blah. You know, they point that out. All right. They are over concerned for your well-being way too soon. All right. They may have, it's natural if you're an empathic person to have concern for people that you don't even know. Right. But there's an over concern where it makes them, it seems like attachment and it's not. All right. It's them trying to get something back from you and them trying to gain your attachment toward them. Okay. And in other words, they'll use you for supply after that. Pay attention to how they talk about their mom. Mom is either the most amazing thing in the world, and it's a little bit bizarre how they view their mother in the sense of it being like idealized, or the mother's awful. Their mother is the worst thing in the world. And you can sense when they talk about their mother, a misogynistic attitude, right? You can sense the female woman hating thing, whether it's a man or a woman saying it, it doesn't matter. And I suppose it could be also true toward fathers. It seems to be more obvious toward mothers. I don't know why that is, but that's seems to be the case. All right. They consume your time. Oh my gosh. The waiting, like we talked about, is one example. They consume your time. They get into every piece of your life so fast that your time is sucked up into their world. If you feel like you are not having enough time for yourself in a relationship, especially one that's fairly new, or a friendship or whatever, or being around someone, even just someone you barely know, if you feel like your time is being sucked into their world, then something's up. They are total time hogs, okay? They're good opportunists. Absolutely they are. Well, yeah, that's their whole mode of operation is opportunism. Why will a covert start to tell the truth? Because I talked about this a bit earlier, Nick, because ultimately I believe, and I could be wrong here, but ultimately I believe they want to be accepted as they are and have free reign to be whatever the heck they want to be without accountability for anyone else. Now they know from having past experiences with people that if they go out and out and just act like if they're authentic, no one's going to hang out with them, right? Who's going to bend to their will? Not very many people. So they will do it they'll do it even before the discard stage. They'll do it in the beginning. They'll start to tell you the truth in the beginning because it's pieces of the truth. And basically it's a contract. Okay. If they say I'm difficult to get along with, but they don't say it, like I said, they don't say it point blank. Hey, okay, here's the things about me. I'm difficult to get along with. I'm selfish. I am self-absorbed. I only think of my needs. You are a second to me. I'm number one. You are number two. And the only reason you're number two is you belong to me. If you did not belong to me, you would not exist. And if they told you all this point blank, you'd sit there with your jaw slack and either be laughing or running, right? And I'd probably do both. But by saying I'm difficult after you have a fight, gosh, I'm difficult. I'm difficult to get along with. I've been told this. I know I need to work on it. I'm difficult. I am. I don't know that that'll ever change. The second you say, well, we're all difficult. Everybody's difficult. The second you empathize, and you empathize with some reason and logic behind it, because it's true. We are all difficult, right? The second you do that, you've just unknowingly signed a contract saying, I accept that in you, to the narcissist. Then they can push the boundary. That pushes the boundary. Bam, right there. I can be difficult. That's why they do it. Does that make sense? That was a long-winded way of wording it, but I think I got the point across. That's why they do it. All right. All right. So another one, they're angry when you are not available to them. They start pitching little fits when you're not available to them, or when you have to shift your schedule, or when you have to say no, When you're not there for them, they get angry. That's another red flag. Another red flag would be, oh, I have one more, and then I'll go to you guys and then we'll finish. Oh my gosh, I've gone past an hour. Then we'll finish. All right. They are oddly upset about the small things, like cry over spilled milk, so to speak, right? They're really oddly upset over little tiny things, especially emotional things or things that touch their triggers. We all get upset when we're triggered, but they get really upset over the tiniest trigger. All right. All right. I hope that helps. That is a giant, giant list of many, many red flags to look out for in relationship. That is not necessarily not necessarily will everything be there, but actually in most narcissists, yes, it will. Those are things that will be in most people. You kind of can't see them all right away, of course. Yeah. When they suddenly start, Grace, hello, Grace. When they suddenly start getting disappointed in you or angry when you realize they're canceling plans on a regular hangout day, even though they didn't tell you till the last minute. Right. Yeah, exactly. Okay, good, Nick. That made sense. Good. Okay. You're getting chills. I know, because truth, right? Yeah. Okay. All right, you guys. Anything else? Did I miss any questions or anything that you guys want me to talk about before I head out? Because we've gone way long today. Okay. He would constantly ask me, are you okay? Right. Oh, yeah, because they don't really care if you're okay. But basically they're saying, how can I pretend to care so that then I can pull that rug out from under you again? Right. All right. So anyway, lots of red flags here, lots to think about and pay attention to. The main thing is getting yourself understanding, right? Getting yourself strong, learning to validate yourself, learning to love yourself, and learning to have those boundaries in place so that you don't fall victim to another narcissist, right? That's the main point of all of it. That's the only reason to care about these red flags, right? All right. They expect you to have sex with them even after they're emotionally cut you right open. Oh, yeah, they do. Or devalued you to the point where you feel worthless so that then they can say, well, you're not very sexy anymore, and then expect more from you 2 minutes later and expect you to beg for it. Oh, yes. We could have a whole talk about sex and narcissism. In fact, we probably should. I tried before, but nobody wanted to talk. So if you want to let me know, I'll do it because I can. There we go. All right. You're welcome so much. Happy healing to you all, says Shannon. Yes. Butterfly Mama, thank you. I'm glad that was good. All right. Truth telling was almost sadistic. It was about how many men she was with and how many times she was with them and how good it was. Oh, yeah, it can be. See, and that's another thing that was done to hurt you. That was done to create a reaction in you and to gain supply from your reaction. It not only, once you accepted it, made it so that you signed that unknowing contract saying, yes, I accept that in you to her, but it was her way of hurting you. Yeah. And showing you how great she is, how I can have anyone I want, man. You're lucky to have this. Yeah, that's what they do. Okay. Ugh. You have so many. Okay, we'll do that either this weekend or Monday. I'm on a live stream roll. So we'll talk this next week about specifically how should I form the topic, you guys? Sex and narcissism. Sex and the narcissist, anything specific so I can dive into my looking in my brain for stuff beforehand. Maybe I will review the article I wrote on it and start there about how they abuse your intimacy, abuse you in an intimate way. And we could start there and then you guys can ask questions. We'll do that next week. And so with this topic for next week, sex and narcissism. If you have questions or something you would like talked about, but you do not feel comfortable speaking about it, even in as anonymous as you can get in chat here, please let me know ahead of time what your question is. Either message me, find me on Span or Facebook and message me, email coachlise@gmail.com, LISECCOACH LISEC@gmail.com. something. Find me. Get me the information the question that you have, so I can answer you or talk about what you need to talk about without you having to be speaking about it, if that makes you uncomfortable. If you are comfortable, do it in chat because it's more fun. Okay. All right. Okay, you guys. All right. Sounds good. Okay, good. So you all know how to get a hold of me. It's in the main description anyway, so you can find me. But okay. Okay. Okay, you guys. All right. Sorry. Reading in case there was something that needed to be said. I think we're good. Okay, you guys keep chatting till the end if you like. If you have not done so already and you enjoy this type of thing, hit subscribe and hit the notifications so you get notifications. If you would like text notifications, text me at 33222 Lise Live, LISE, all one word. And you will be given notifications about 10 minutes before I go live every time. And if you have not done so already and you enjoyed this topic in particular or this discussion or whatever, please hit the like button because it helps me know what you like and what you need more of and what is less interesting. And so then I'll just move on to another topic. Okay. All right, you guys, take care. And I will be back very soon in the next few days or this weekend. I'm not sure. Okay. Talk to you later. I wish you well with your healing. Bye-bye.